Hi there, Max Simon here, the founder of Big Vision Business. Welcome to another Big Vision show. And Jeffrey and I were talking about the way to best format these shows, and we realized that inherently, as an entrepreneur, there's always three problems that you're facing in every genre. There's a public problem, what you know is the problem. There's the private problem, which is like what you feel is kind of the issue, but you don't really talk about it, and maybe you're somewhat aware of it. And then there's the unknown problem, which is what's really causing the whole situation in the first place. And so Jeffrey and I are going to dive into the public, private, and unknown problems of core issues around your business. So Jeffrey.
Hello, my friend.
All right. So let's talk about the problem around why it feels like it takes so long to grow a business.
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the things I hear most often from people is like, I've been at this and I've been at this and I've been at this and it's still not working, and why isn't it working, and what am I doing wrong, and how do I fix it? Please help.
Yeah, it's taking just way too long for my liking.
Taking way too long, right? And first of all, I think part of it's just the perception that it is taking a long time.
Right.
Right? Because my experience...
It's taken me months.
Months and months and months. Like, you know, when I had a business that actually started to work and thrive and I could count on it, it took a while. It took a good few years.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of skill you have to develop. Like, I moved into this from being an employee at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Right? I had no idea what it really meant to become an entrepreneur.
It's a whole different game, you know, like different way of thinking, different way of operating. You know, I found that when I left the Chopra Center, I thought I was really good at this one sliver.
Yeah.
And then I realized how I was so not very good at all these other slivers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the first thing that comes to mind, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I want to say about this, but the one thing that just like kind of all the lights went on one day when I heard my old business partner and friend Suzanne Falter speak about this. She said, you know, platform, which is what you're known for and your brand and how big your reach is. Platform is the 1 square inch you drill a mile deep in the marketplace.
So what does that mean exactly?
It means that there's this sliver of the marketplace, right, that is where your genius zone, is where your calling lives, is where the gold is, and that's where to like drop in and do all your work and become known and build expertise around, build your brand around, etc.
You mean because a lot of people, instead of drilling deep, they kind of stay general and wide and vague, like business coaching or life coaching or spiritual development or whatever, meaning. So the wider it is, the less drilled down it really becomes.
Yeah. You know, in the old days, say 25 years ago,
so long ago,
before the internet, when people build brands around books, right? Deepak or Marianne Williamson, like all the sort of like, or you could go into the business field as well, but people built brands around books, really. They became best-selling authors, and that built their company. Even Tony Robbins, right? The Giant Within,
right?
Classic. And so in those days, you had to go broad to build the business in a way. But post-internet, the game is 100% the opposite, where you need to go so specific and drill deep to really build your foundation and what you're known for and who follows you. And from there, you can grow wider.
So what I'm hearing you say here is that really the core public problem is that people just don't know what their sweet spot is. They don't know where they land.
Don't know what the sweet spot is. And here's the thing. I think people are scared of it. I think people are scared.
So that moves into the private problem, right? So what's the private problem then?
Private problem is, I don't know if this is the right one, right? I've gone to business mentors and they tell me to niche. You know, I come to BVB, they tell me to identify a tribe. And I think I kind of have one, but I don't know for sure in my heart and soul that it's right. And so how in the world am I going to trust that I can spend the amount of energy, time, money to drill a mile deep in my particular area if if I'm not really sure that it's the right one.
So why do you think that people, because it's a trust issue, right?
Trust
that
issue.
There's that sense of like, I can't trust myself to go this deep.
Well,
Why is it so hard?
That's what I would call the unknown problem. The unknown problem is I can't trust myself. I don't trust myself. I don't trust a larger field of guidance. I don't trust that people are going to really want what I feel most called to bring to the world. I don't trust any of it.
And I think on some level, as you're saying, and I'm realizing that also the other part of it is that I don't really believe that I have something of true value to offer.
Oof.
You know, like that sense of, okay, well, if I was to go this narrow, like, do I really have anything that would strike the right chord? Can I really lead these particular people?
Right.
But I would still call that the private problem. I would still call that thing that inside, you know, they're quietly saying like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is really the right thing. So I'm going to drill down a little bit more into the unknown problem, because of course that's where once you see the unknown clearly enough, you can then bring some consciousness to it to help move beyond it. So what do you really think the unknown problem is?
Well, I do think it's a matter of trust, fundamentally. If there's one thing I see that people struggle with, they aren't conscious of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think they're conscious of, like, I don't trust myself.
No, it's definitely not like it's an unknown problem, right? But what they probably can see is that they're filled with anxiety. They feel like they have to frantically try to chase their tail to get it right. That they're always looking for, do you have the answer? Do you have the answer? Do you have the answer? Rather than coming really into like, what do I know is true that's mine to do?
Yeah, see, that's what I would say. I would say that, you know, the problem with our current internet environment is there's so many people saying, do this, this is what you do. And then, of course, you see all the success stories of everybody, you know, I made $1 million doing this, and I made $1 million doing that, and all of a sudden, people kind of lose the sense of, like, what am I here to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or this is what this person told me. And as a result of that, we get to this place where we're no longer lined up with, you know, what I'm here to do. So why does it take so long? It's because I'm constantly trying this, I'm constantly trying that, I'm constantly like trying all these things that other people are doing rather than really trying to define like, here's what I'm here to do. Because my experience, and I'm sure it would be yours too, is that the more deeply we like really tune in and ask the questions like, who are we really here to serve?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it we're really here to provide for them? And why are we the people to do it? And listen to the truth of that in a quiet space. And then utilize that to broadcast to the world. Things work. But nobody does that.
Yeah. Well, what's also coming to mind for me is an issue of scarcity.
Yeah.
Right?
Huge issue of scarcity.
That, for one, in my experience, when you really get to that, like, here's what's mine to do, it's not necessarily the instant success formula.
No.
Right? It's
It's the seed.
Right.
It's just a seed.
It's just a seed. My buddy Tad Hargrave talks about slow marketing, kind of like the slow food movement, right? It's that kind of marketing that like you build a loyal following over time and it just bubbles up and bubbles up and bubbles up. But if you're sitting there going like, how do I feed myself?
Right.
Right? How do I keep this roof over my head? Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Right? Well, then that's what you're going to develop is crap.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a moment. You know, I think that whether people are in that situation of like, I'm afraid I'm going to turn the lights out, or they just are pushing really hard, trying to make it work, you know, how do you approach that?
For me, I challenge them. I mean, I was just talking to you earlier about somebody who's like, it's not going fast enough, it's not going fast enough, And it's like, look, a week ago, you didn't even know if you were serving entrepreneurs or people in corporate. So let's get some perspective here. And sometimes you just need someone to call you on your crap and say, hey, sit down, breathe, right? And start to notice where you're coming from in the building of the business. What are the questions you're asking yourself? Because if you're beating the drum of like, why is it taking so long? This isn't working, blah, 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 blah. Like your head's in that morass of crap. Like, you're never going to build a successful business from, why isn't this working? What am I doing wrong? Those are not the right questions to ask.
That's what it's bringing up for me, is just realizing it's the wrong question to ask.
Totally the wrong
question, you know.
What do you think the right question is?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is just, you know, what do I know is working? Or what do I know to be true? And you can ask that question in specific areas. What do I know to be true about who I'm serving? What do I know to be true about what I'm here to be doing in the world? What do I know to be true about what my gifts and talents are? And I think it takes some courage for people to actually not only acknowledge that some things are working, but to claim that things are working.
Yeah.
You know, to really acknowledge, like something that you and I do all the time is have these dialogues about claiming who we're here to serve and what mission we're here to do in the world and why we are the ones to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's a spiritual dilemma sometimes because people think, well, you know, who am I to claim this thing? You know, it brings that whole quote that Marianne Williamson always says, like, who are you not to? You know? I don't know, what would you say?
I think that's the big issue on the table, is really claiming what it is you're here to do. I think that's it. Because once you do that, once you like, here's what I'm on earth to do, you find the inner capacity to show up to it. You find the capacity to say like, okay, what is there here for me to do? And where do I have gaps that I need to fill in, that I'm gonna go get resource and support for?
But so how does somebody get over the hump? Because I can just like feel it already in the tribe where it's like, yeah, great, just claim it. Okay, yeah, just declare it, like, I'm the one.
I'm
right?
the one.
Like,
it's amazing.
Right, so give some tools. Like, this is a good place for a practice. What would be a good practice of how to claim what you're here to do?
Yeah. You know, the first thing I would say is you've got to bring some attention to your thought process and just start to notice, what question am I asking right now? Like, when I show up to build my business, what are the questions I'm asking? And maybe even write them down, right? What am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working? Whatever it is. And then look at those questions objectively and say, are those the right questions for me to be asking? And if they are, great. And how do you know? Because they feel good when you ask them. That's the number one thing.
It lifts you up.
It lifts you up to ask those questions. If the questions you are asking tear you down, they are inherently the wrong questions, right? So if you find that you like notice the questions you're asking yourself, write them down, read them aloud, and feel how they feel as you read them, you're going to know either I'm on track with those questions or I'm not, right? And if you aren't on track, then I'd say, well, what questions would feel good for me to focus on right now? And you might have to get quiet and listen, right? Sometimes I ask my own spiritual guidance, what questions should I be asking? Right? So often when people go to spiritual guidance, they like go with their questions. And one of the things I'm in a practice of doing is going and saying, what questions should I be asking right now? And whether you ask that of spiritual guidance, of your own soul, or whatever, is fine. But to find the questions that feel right and feel good and feel generative, and let those lead you in.
What are some of those questions for you recently? Like, what are some of those that have been popping up?
One of them is, what does the tribe need most from us now?
That's a really good question.
Another one is, I have a vision for a large-scale conference, and so a lot of my questions has been around, what is this conference really meant to be about? What's its role on this planet? How is it meant to serve the people we're on Earth to serve? And as we serve those and grow this tribe, how does that change the planet? Like, I'm asking big questions around the why of it.
You know, the question that I've been asking a lot, because it's so much going on right now, and sometimes things are really challenging, I've been asking myself, what's the most important lesson I need to learn right now in this period? You know, because sometimes, at least I find, even though sometimes it's hard to keep this perspective, that when stuff's really challenging, that's also the greatest opportunity for our expansion and our leadership to shine through. So I even just ask, like, what am I supposed to learn right now? You know, you even asked me that last night, and I had such a clear answer for it, because I'm constantly like, what needs to learn right now? What do I need to hear right now? What's the message of this period right now?
Of this moment even.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if people start asking that, What they'll find is they get into a place where they're open, where they grow, where they're receptive, and when you're in that state, then when you go to look at the how, you're in a powerful place.
It's a totally different frequency.
Totally different frequency. And then you can see a pathway you've never seen before. Yeah, so this feels like a good place to wrap this one up. And I want to turn to the tribe and ask you, what problems are you facing? What are some questions you have that you would love to see Max and I discuss and just open up in terms of the public, the private, and the unknown problems inside of it? And to that end, what are some of the problems you've been facing? Whether they're public or private, go ahead and make those comments below. Share with us, and whether people in the tribe help solve those problems for you or we bring them into this conversation, we'd love to support you in really stepping forward in a whole new way in your business. And as always, if you aren't part of our tribe yet and enjoyed this video and found some value in it, go ahead and move over to bigvisionbusiness.com and join us, subscribe, and we'll keep you abreast of future conversations just like this. With that, thank you so much. We send you all our love, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Subscribe.
All right, my friend, well, that feels like a good place to break. So, I felt cheesy. Break.
Okay. All right.
Hey.
By the way, when you do this, it's annoying on camera.
All right, cool. So that. All right, well, that feels like a good. I just clapped again. I clap. I'm a clapper. I'm in your ears.
Yeah, right. Annoyed. I'm annoyed. I'm very annoyed.
So. I don't even know.
I twitched before.
I don't even know where to do this and not be cheesy.